On the surface, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies and Crimes of the Future are two very different films, but dig a little deeper and you'll find that their core themes are identical, that of the human body and the future of humanity. Except they go about exploring these themes very differently, the former using contemporary youth culture, whilst the latter uses performance artists living in the future. But before I get further into it, please consider subscribing and switching on notifications as it really helps us out. And if you're feeling particularly generous, give us a like as well, as that tells YouTube that this video is worth showing to others. Let's begin with the human body. Crimes of the Future imagines a time when humans no longer feel pain or suffer infections, and it is quite normal to inflict bodily harm on yourself and others as a way to try and feel something. Some humans have altered their organs to allow them to eat plastic, and some have naturally started growing new organs within their own bodies. Our protagonist, Saul Tenser, is one of these organ growers, turning his affliction into performance art with the help of his partner Caprice, who performs surgery to remove them. Director David Cronenberg, also known as the king of venereal horror, has long been famous for his particular brand of body horror, with films such as Videodrome, The Fly, and Crash, that all challenge the depiction of the human body in cinema.
And for me, the body is the essential fact of the human condition. I mean, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in an afterlife, our bodies are what we are. And I think the more that you can accept that, perhaps the more fully you will understand life itself.
This can be summarized in 3 words. Body is reality, a term displayed on the old-school TV sets that surround Saul and Caprice as they do their performance. They and the people of this future world in general are unafraid of breaking things we would consider taboo in extreme ways. It's a fascinating examination of how the purpose of the human body could change over time. Not just as a work of art, something that Kristen Stewart's character Timlin is deeply obsessed over, but also for its ability to evolve.
These organs represent kind of weird internal organ rebellion against normality.
Just the fact that people are deciding what to do with their own bodies.
And that they are in control of it. And of course it has, strangely and sadly, has huge political repercussions right now. Can the government actually tell you what to do with your body and not?
Those in power keep records using the organ registry led by Timlin and Whippet, and they also use secret agents to eliminate people they perceive to threaten the norm. And some of these people they even consider no longer human. It's less about what the characters are saying and more about what they are doing. In Bodies, 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 the opposite is true. It features an ensemble of relatively wealthy young adults who decide to hold a hurricane party. When the lights go out, they play a murder mystery game in which there is one killer who tries to kill everyone else without being discovered.
I used to play the game with my friends a lot. We call it werewolf or moordenaartje in my language, or mafia or whatever. And I would always end up being very emotional about it and feeling left out and all of that. So I was like, oh my God, this is such a great vehicle to talk about human nature and group behavior and just like, is the killer inside of us or outside of us?
The film portrays Gen Z and their attachment to their phones and social media, and the conflict is centered on what happens when that technology is taken away, with an extra layer of mayhem added after they discover someone actually being dead during the game. This leads to unfiltered ugliness. And to clarify, I'm not using that term to insult the actor's physical appearance. What I'm referencing is the multiple filters that people use every time they go online, without which many people would perceive themselves as uglier. The filters that give you clearer skin, correct your spelling, block or fail to block hateful comments. The filters that grant anonymity to people so they can express their unfiltered opinions. All this is lost when the power goes out, and we see a glimpse of humanity's instinctual ugliness through the actions of these characters.
Watching these characters react to the absence of social media and thinking about how much we rely on our phones as this buffer to reality, or to feel like comforted and connected with each other. I'm curious if there was any aspect of your character or the group or the situation that you specifically related to.
the fact that there's this hurricane that comes in and all our phones go away, this like extension of our body that literally like, you know, is malfunctioning. All of a sudden we have to like confront ourselves.
No longer in school together, these friends are mostly connected to one another through social media, and their perception of each other's lives is based on a highly edited portfolio of content. There are plenty of examples of how this affects their relationships in negative ways, such as when Sophie is judged for her lack of communication in the group chat, and during the climax of the conflict, her life seems to hang in the balance depending on whether she sent or didn't send certain text messages. Unlike crimes of the future, we aren't literally seeing people's insides, but we are seeing them metaphorically. We're seeing these characters' true selves and how they reason with reality when the bodies start piling up. These differing types of presentation that achieve similar philosophical goals are evident in other parts of the films. In Crimes, characters eat toxic plastic. In Bodies, these two words take on a symbolic meaning, which brings us to the theme of the future of humanity.
Strangely enough, in this movie, I propose that the solution to the way that we're destroying the earth, partly with plastics, is not to stop productions of plastics, not to say we'll clean the earth, we'll clean the ocean, we'll clean everybody's bodies. None of that is very likely. The alternative is that we eat plastics. I mean, that our bodies can absorb it and use it as nutrient.
Plastic is what dolls are made of, and plastic surgeries are often used to make people look better, at times to become more like those dolls. But Gen Z are challenging that image of the human body that still informs a lot of people's ideas of perfection, with many content creators making a point of showing their insecurities. This attitude is evident in Bodies, where each character has a different physical aesthetic, and even though B stands out the most with her modest outfit, refreshingly she becomes the outcast not because of how she looks, but because of how little presence she has online, which speaks volumes about this generation.
I think we all went into it being like, this is going to be genre bending, and there's no clear cut. This is not like a YA, you know, there's no clear cut category, and A24 always breaks through molds and barriers. And so I think like knowing that and rising to that challenge of like, okay, let's try to make something unexpected.
Crimes includes references to an inner beauty pageant in which people are judged for the organs their bodies have created. This is a deliciously twisted use of the term inner beauty, and a darkly humorous transformation of what we typically think a pageant looks like. Though not to such extremes, the idea of inner beauty is also present in Bodies, but it becomes an inner darkness that contrasts the outer beauty as seen on social media. Toxic is a word used to label substances that would be dangerous if ingested, and it too has been cleverly transposed in popular culture to reference someone whose behavior aims to affect people's insides, but on an emotional level. In Crimes, people overcome physical toxicity by altering their organs. But in Bodies, this toxicity is between the characters. It's about how they treat each other when the inner darkness is allowed to come out.
It's a scary thing about this game. It's psychological warfare. You never know which secrets are going to come out when. It is a thrilling game, but of course, it is just a metaphor for all the relationships that they have with each other and how they act and how their relationship with their phone is and all of that.
As you can see with these two examples, language is an integral part of both of these stories and has been a governing factor in how humanity develops throughout history. However, none of this would be possible without advancements in technology. Bodies is unique compared to classical whodunits and young adult horror films because of how it utilizes and makes a point of featuring the characters' phones, which we all know will be an integral part of Gen Z's future. When they lose connection, the characters continue to be attached to their phones, physically in the case of B and her crossbody accessory, and they also use them as flashlights. B is given the last line of the film, "I have signal," which on the surface is quite comical, and I found it quite cheesy when I first heard it. But it's actually rather brilliant. It signals the end of the horror that began when the signal was lost, which deprived them of the technological crutch that they rely on daily to understand one another. Similarly, the humanoid technology used by people in crimes is their crutch to help them sleep and eat in their evolved bodies.
Machinery in the movie is basically very organic. The whole SARC unit, it's really in some ways the star of the movie, aside from these two, you know.
In this future, technology has become an extension of the human body, in some cases physically attaching to it. Furthermore, without this technology, the performance artists would not be able to open the human body safely, so the internal exploration they desire would not be possible. Overall, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies and Crimes of the Future dissect the intricacies of human behavior in moving and unsettling ways. They explore how we adapt as a species both physically and psychologically when threatened by uncertainty, danger, miracles, or even just monotony. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe and switch on notifications so you don't miss future videos, and comment below with your thoughts on the topic. For more film content, feel free to follow us on Twitter, Letterboxd and TikTok. Links in the description. Otherwise, this has been Tea Break Film Reviews. My name's Michelle, and I hope you have a great day.